New Jersey's youth justice system does not rehabilitate its kids. It devastates them. Pending legislation will set up a 2-year pilot program in 4 major New Jersey cities that will invest in supporting our kids in their communities so they can stay out of youth prisons and have a better chance at succeeding. It will also help many young people recently released from facilities due to the risk of COVID-19 who are in immediate need of assistance.
The youth justice system in New Jersey is broken. It intentionally targets Black and brown youth. A Black youth is 21 times more likely to be locked up than a white youth, even though they commit most offenses at similar rates. My name is Samaje. I am 17 years old, and I am a part of Youth for Justice New Jersey, which is a part of the 150 Years is Enough campaign, working on closing down all youth prisons in New Jersey and reinvesting back into community alternatives.
New Jersey spends more than $300,000 to incarcerate each child in a youth prison, but doesn't even spend 15% of that for each child in its community's public schooling system. My name is Eva Vanterpool. I'm 14 years old. I've been a part of Youth for Justice New Jersey's Camden Youth Council for the past 3 years now. And so I feel like they're literally investing more in our downfall than the thing that could lead to our success, which is education. I've had a few family members actually enter the justice system as youth and as adults, so it really hits home to me. And also, I live in one of those neighborhoods that is very heavily impacted by youth imprisonment, which is Camden, New Jersey. And I go to school in a neighborhood that is not, let's just say that. It's a predominantly white, rich neighborhood, Morristown, New Jersey. You know, a lot of these kids in Camden that I've seen go to prisons, it's honestly just because they lack resources. They don't have the same help that the kids in my school have. They face adversities that kids in my school, the kids in the neighborhood of my school never even have to think about. And if they did face those adversities, they receive mental health services and not be put into prisons.
My name is Crystal Saruya, and I've been a part of the Newark Youth Council for about 4 years now. The youth justice system is really broken because it continues to invest in failure. In fact, the youth incarceration leads to high recidivism rates, which actually undermines public safety. So research shows that of the 336 youth released from commitment in state youth facilities in 2015, over 1/4, which is 28%, were recommitted within 3 years of being released. And this makes sense when our state continues to invest in failure instead of investing in transformative and restorative justice practices.
My name is Rita Onatiri. I am the Director of Community Engagement at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. We are really pushing and think it's urgent to pass the Restorative and Transformative Justice for Youth and Communities Pilot Program bill. This bill allocates $8.4 million, which is approximately 20% of the youth incarceration budget, for the creation of a 2-year pilot program. And this pilot program establishes enhanced reentry wraparound programs and community-led restorative justice hubs in 4 cities disproportionately impacted by youth incarceration. That's Camden, Newark, Trenton, and Paterson. We think it's urgent to pass this bill. We think this is the time. It's critical that we move from our current punitive system to restorative system and service young people in the communities where they live.
Dr. Jason Williams, Assistant Professor of Justice Studies at Montclair State University. The youth justice system is broken really because it has lost its way as far as its original underpinning. So the youth justice system traditionally was founded to be therapeutic. But unfortunately, over time and space, it has become a mirroring of the adult justice system. It truly, truly fails to recognize the humanity of Black children in particular, but all youth of color. It disproportionately incarcerates youth of color. And it does so by truly failing to understand the structural inequalities that places them there in the first place, right? So the 21-to-1 ratio of Black to white kids locked up in our state, and it being the sort of highest disparity within the country, it is a disgrace. We are the sixth most segregated state in the nation for Black students. And we need to think about how this paints a very two-tiered reality for our educational systems. And when we think about the school to prison pipeline, as well as the phenomenon of push out, which is the practice of youth dropping out by way of being pushed out because of school policies and practices and curriculums that are uninspiring, this too has a disproportionate effect on our youth. And it, in many ways, is the entryway into the juvenile justice system, which again is not there to truly help, but is showing to be more criminogenic than anything else. Research has long shown that there is a high correlation between youth coming into the juvenile justice system and then graduating into the adult system. The juvenile justice system is also criminogenic, meaning that they learn to do other crimes. And then also, because of having been tagged a criminal, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy by which they then adopt a label of criminality. And this label, a newfound reality, placed upon them again by the state. It really speaks to the urgency of needing to pass legislation to change this reality.
Over 1/4 of young people released from state youth facilities return to these facilities within 3 years. We know there's a better way. Instead of incarcerating young people in harmful youth prisons, studies have shown that rehabilitating young people within a fully funded community-based system of care increases public safety and keep communities whole. New Jersey has taken steps to transform our broken youth justice system and bring our young people home. On November 4th, 2020, in response to the Public Health Emergency Credits Bill, 50 young people nearing the end of their sentences were released from New Jersey's prisons. Prior to that date, 40 young people had been released. As a result of this mass release, as of December 4th, our state's youth prisons are 80% empty. Now we must work to transform incarcerated youth from youth prisons back to their communities and provide an intensive support structure for youth with multifaceted needs.
As a person that was directly impacted by the system, I can tell you from firsthand experience that it doesn't help none of my peers. It doesn't help the kids in the community. I can tell you that the youth justice system is not an adequate place that's actually going to rehabilitate young people. It offers more of a sense of punishment when in reality, what people need is rehabilitative services. When I was finally released from the system, I definitely faced a lot of challenges due to the lack of support. I was really confused and I really didn't know where to go next. I know for me, what helped me succeed was adequate education, was being involved in more mentorship programs where I was around adults who actually cared about me and saw me for who I really was and didn't just focus on the negative behavior that I showed, but actually try to figure out the root cause to that behavior. You know, personally, I lost my mom when I was very young, and I went into the foster care system where I grew up. And from that right there, I was never offered any services. I was never asked if I was okay. All adults looked at was my reaction. None of them took the time to be able to get to know me. It really was my community and people that actually saw me for who I really was, which is a child that was in need of help and support.
The Restorative and Transformative Justice for Youth and Communities Pilot Program Bill needs to be passed as soon as possible. This bill will create restorative justice hubs in communities that have been negatively impacted by the youth justice system in cities such as Newark, Camden, Trenton, and Patterson. In these 2 years of the pilot program, we'll see how it impacts the communities. These hubs will do 3 things. They will prevent youth from entering into the system. They will divert them away from going to the system and provide re-entry services for those coming back to the community.
The purpose for these restorative justice hubs are to divert youth away from the system by offering them ways to handle conflict, by offering them mental health services and other beneficial services to ensure that they never have to enter the system. They also help youth who were incarcerated re-enter society without the barriers that many people face when trying to return to society after prison. They may help by getting them jobs and providing them with mentorship and other services. Another important service that the Restorative Justice Hubs will provide is peace circles. So these peace circles offer youth ways to peacefully resolve and manage conflict. All the people involved are able to sit down and discuss the harm that was done. And the peace circles try to find out the root cause of the harm while also allowing the people who were harmed to heal.
The proposed pilot program is an amazing idea because, for one, it returns power back into the hands of the community, which has long been absent. I think it is a pillar of democracy, for one, because we're talking about giving a community that has long been robbed of its right to govern itself the ability to do so. These communities have long been demanding the right to restore their youth as well as their communities. And so this pilot would do just that, allow the community to restore its youth. And research has shown that actually youth are better restored when they are brought back home into the community.
There are critical things that young people need, right? First of all, they need an education. We would, in this hub structure, help them create a resume and help them with interviewing skills and help them connect up to employers in the community. And the other most important thing, I think, is housing is a big issue in New Jersey. Some of the young people who are returning may be able to go back to their family, but some may not. They may need an independent housing structure in which they can get their foot off the ground. We're looking at servicing about 130 kids in each of the hubs. So this is $8,000 per kid in the communities versus $300,000 per kid. So it's urgent at this time, in this particular time in history, with this COVID-19 and the racial disparity and racial equity reckoning that we are currently looking at, that we change the model and we move away from a system that's not working.
Because of the current lack of opportunities that are offered in these highly impacted communities. Right now, these directly impacted communities are experiencing poverty, they're experiencing structural racism, they're experiencing ongoing lack of opportunities that will help them propel into the future. It's really important to invest into communities and move away from youth incarceration because there's proven statistics that it does not work. Being in the community with wraparound services and support is what's actually going to help our young people in the future.
To ensure a brighter future for New Jersey's youth and to finally break away from our broken youth justice system, visit helpnjkids.org to urge elected officials to vote yes for Bill A4663, the Restorative and Transformative Justice for Youths and Communities pilot program. Every day we wait is one day too many for kids at risk. It's time to declare there are no throwaway kids in New Jersey.
The New Jersey Institute for Social Justice dedicates this podcast to the late Sandy Larson, a public defender who committed her life to fighting for young people like those you've heard from today.